What is Star Wars? It's one of those questions you could ask 1,000 different people and end up more or less getting 1,000 different answers. There are some that would say something along the lines that they're just these stupid movies that they don't understand, while on the opposite end, some would say it's a passion their entire lives revolve around. Most answers, however, I think would fall somewhere in between those two extremes. And if you did ask 1,000 people at random, it's unlikely you'd even find one that had never heard of it before, or that couldn't recognize at least some of the classic characters, such as Darth Vader, or some of the concepts introduced in it, such as the Force. Most would likely even give you a story about the first time they saw it, or mention someone they know that loves it. My point here is that Star Wars means something different to everyone. Sure, you could define it as a series of movies originally created by George Lucas some 40 years ago that, over time, have even grown into other mediums of entertainment, such as books and games. But I dare say very few people would give you that very generic yet very correct answer. Instead, they would likely try to explain Star Wars as something tangible and real, and the impact it has had on them personally, or even on society as a whole. Whether you love it, hate it, or fall somewhere in between, it's hard to deny that it has transcended just being a collection of movies and become something so much more to a lot of people. And even though I use terms such as hardcore fans or casual fans in my videos a lot of the time, I don't think that the way I love and enjoy Star Wars is any greater or more correct than how anyone else out there might love and enjoy it. As I see it, it doesn't matter if you've seen the movies 100 times each or just once, or if you're there and dressed up like a Jedi for the very first screening of the newest movie, or if you catch it on the third weekend because the crowds have died down a bit. You can be just as big of a fan of Star Wars as anyone else. It's not a competition. It's something for us all to share and enjoy as we see fit. And the beauty of this fandom is it welcomes any and all. There are no tests or requirements to be a Star Wars fan, well, other than liking the movies, of course. So that brings us to the question, what should Star Wars be? Again, this is a question that is likely going to get you a lot of very different answers. Some will say it should stay true to George's original vision back in the 70s, and that even he went astray when he created the prequels. Others will say that they love all things Star Wars, and it doesn't matter to them as long as more and more of it keeps coming. And once again, most fans fall somewhere in between these two extremes. The reason I bring this question up now is because I think we can all feel a shift in Star Wars coming, especially after The Last Jedi teaser trailer, though I dare say most of us have known changes were coming since the announcement back in October of 2012 that Disney had purchased Lucasfilm. And as I've said many times before, you better believe Disney is going to, in some way, shape, or form, put their own stamp on Star Wars and make it theirs and distinguish it in some respect from what it used to be. And that as the years go by, people will talk about the pre- and post-Disney eras of Star Wars. Personally, I think there are big changes in store for Star Wars, starting with The Last Jedi. I think The Force Awakens was a reminder of what Star Wars used to be. It was a way to pay homage to the original and to show us long-standing fans that they respect where Star Wars comes from. And in turn, I think The Last Jedi is going to show us what Star Wars can be, and like it or not, will not be the same from here on out. And as someone who grew up with the original trilogy, I'm torn by that prospect, because I love what Star Wars used to be back in the day. It was simple enough for me to follow and love as a kid, and deep enough to delve into and appreciate even more when I became an adult. It is storytelling at its most basic, yet also at its finest. Each of us can find a character that we either relate to or that we can aspire to be like in those original movies. Yet, in this day and age, I don't think the average person is so interested in simple stories anymore. Not only do we want new levels of complexity, especially in our characters, but we have nearly endless options of entertainment these days. Back in 1977, people would have never understood how you could watch a movie on your phone of all things, or that the simple game called Pong would one day lead to what the video game industry is today. Simply put, Star Wars has more competition than ever, and to stand out from the rest once more, it has to do something to wow people again. And it can't do that by just being the same old, or it will never bring in and capture the imagination of this current generation. A generation who probably watches that opening shot of the original Star Wars, where the giant Star Destroyer literally flies over you, and has no reaction to it, because they've seen stuff like that before in movies. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, didn't The Force Awakens very much use the original Star Wars formula, and wasn't it a huge success because of it? Yes, it was, but playing off nostalgia of the originals once, especially since not everyone was a fan of the prequels, was not only a safe bet, but as I mentioned earlier, let the fans know that they understand where Star Wars came from and what it is. It honored the original, and that very much turned out to be a wise and good move on their part. However, if The Last Jedi also plays off nostalgia, and beat for beat goes a lot like The Empire Strikes Back, I don't think the reaction to it will be quite so kind. One way or another, Disney and Lucasfilm have a tall, difficult task ahead of them, of somehow keeping Star Wars true to what it was at the start back in 1977, and yet having it grow with the times and become something new and different that keeps the stories fresh and interesting, that keeps us wanting more and more for years and years to come. However, the beauty of it for Disney and us fans is that if this new sequel trilogy doesn't work out the way they want it to, and these new ideas are rejected by the fans, they can still go backwards, making their next trilogy about the Old Republic, for example. Or they can keep making anthology movies around the time period of the original trilogy, and then eventually try to push forward once again. Either way, I'm going to hold off any type of final judgment about Disney and their handling of Star Wars until after this new sequel trilogy is complete. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to let me know what you think. Are you okay with Disney taking Star Wars in a new direction, or is it a horrible idea? Or do you maybe think I'm wrong, and this new trilogy won't be all that different from the originals? Tell me your thoughts on the matter in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel or check out some of my other videos. If you've already done all that, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, then hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.